The modern seasons of SpongeBob are perfect for hate watching. I mean, how can you not, man? Some are gross, some are mean, some are just confusing enough to make you pause the episode and go, wait, what did I just watch? I've done a few episodes covering those messes, and wouldn't you know it, the writers just can't stop with it. This right here might be the most humiliating thing this show has ever done to Squidward. And that's saying something. Because when you've been turned into a snail, milked dry, and mentally broken by a clarinet recital, you'd think there's not much lower to go. But somehow, SpongeBob found it. And by the end of this video, we're not just counting how many times Squidward gets bashed in the head. We're figuring out why it might just be the most hated SpongeBob episode ever made. The episode starts with Squidward's therapy session. He's taking a bubble bath, enjoying the essential oils, and listening to some weirdly specific meditation radio. He's just having a nice time, which in SpongeBob language means he's about to get ruined in the next few seconds. Right on cue, SpongeBob and Patrick ruin the Zen experience with their laughs. Turns out, SpongeBob found a box of old baby toys in his attic, so naturally, instead of throwing them away like a normal adult, he and Patrick are outside acting like toddlers on a sugar high. They're giggling, sucking on pacifiers, riding scooters, and generally doing whatever it takes to make Squidward fume. Squidward instantly snaps, storms outside, and slips on one of the toys. He crashes into a mailbox and smashes the back of his head, and the plot goes downhill right away. Squidward's head swells from the concussion, and now we can't do anything besides moan in pain. They rush him to the hospital where the doctor gives him the most made-up diagnosis I've ever heard.
Your friend has a condition known by the medical term of head-go-boom-boom-itis.
Also, we get the only piece of tension this episode bothers to set up. The doctor said Squidward can't take another hit to the head, and if he does, he could stay like this forever. So, clearly what this means is 11 straight minutes of Squidward living through a life-ending concussion. Saying Squidward's head can't take any more hits in the modern season, that'll just jinx it, man. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna put a counter on the bottom here just to see how many times Squidward gets hit in the head. One from the mailboxes, a few mini bumps when they're trying to take him to the hospital. So we've got 7 in the first 3 minutes. Which brings us back to the next phase, the babysitting arc. SpongeBob and Patrick take him home and start playing Mommy and Daddy, which sounds cute until you realize Squidward is not really there. Patrick starts the day by throwing Squidward up to the ceiling. SpongeBob then scolds him, saying we need to protect his head, remember? And then slams the mini table into his face. After that, they try feeding him krill tartare, which, by the way, sounds more like something Squilliam would eat, but Squidward just throws a tantrum and throws it in SpongeBob's face. Then, it's game time, because the baby has to play, right? They teach him the Kelpie cake toss, and Squidward slaps them across the room.
This game's kind of dangerous.
You know, at this point, I thought maybe this won't be so bad. Maybe instead of torturing Squidward, it could just be about SpongeBob and Patrick getting burned out from trying to protect him. But now, Squidward crawls out the door and immediately heads out onto the road, right in front of a sleeping truck driver. Patrick saves the day by lifting an entire slab of road like it's nothing. Nice, right? Except the road lands squarely on Squidward's head. And of course, the truck has to land on Squidward's house. So much for the hope. Now Squidward is crying nonstop and the montage begins. Yeah, it's Rockabye Bivalve all over again. But no, Patrick actually steps up this time. He's the one watching baby Squidward while SpongeBob sleeps. They take turns in taking baths, they eat while he cries, 72 hours of non-stop babysitting. Somehow, this is the most realistic part of the episode. But then, just as our hope builds up, we hit the breaking point, the Krusty Krab segment. SpongeBob and Patrick drag Squidward to work. Why? I don't know. Patrick doesn't even work at the Krusty Krab. Can't he just watch Squidward at home while SpongeBob clocks in? SpongeBob then explains that Squidward can't perform his crusty duty. Greedy Krabs takes one look at his drooling diapered cashier and says, I don't care if he has seaweed for brains, he needs to be behind that register. We all know this is not gonna end well. So SpongeBob duct tapes Squidward to a chair, puts a Krusty Krab hat on his head, and acts like a proud dad on his son's first day at school. He gave baby Squidward a pencil and notepad to take orders, but of course, baby Squidward could only scribble nonsense, eat a customer's head, drool into the register, and make everyone in the restaurant very, very uncomfortable, including us. Then comes the final straw. Squidward has a diaper emergency in public. Did they have to show us that? Customers obviously gag. Mr. Krabs flips out and yells at baby Squidward. Krabs is clearly losing his mind now. I mean, what do you expect from yelling at a baby? Spongebob tries to take the responsibility and change the diaper. In the dining area. Yes, on the table. On the floor, next to the ketchup, and finally in the cashier boat. But Krabs just won't let him, saying he can't do that in front of the customers. Do it in the back where the food is prepared. Apparently, no one in this episode thinks bathrooms exist. Then, since all the customers leave in disgust, Krabs finally snaps and tells SpongeBob to get the poopy baby out of his restaurant. SpongeBob, now suddenly emotional, says, "If my poopy baby isn't welcome here, then I'm not staying either." I mean, you brought him here. You're the one showing his full diaper to everyone. Anyway, just as he's about to go, he slips on a rattle and slams Squidward's head into a frying pan, the ice machine, and several kitchen appliances in a row. And just like that, covered by stacks of ice cubes, he's cured. The swelling goes down, his voice returns, his brain went back to normal. And he looks around like he just woke up from a coma.
Sorry, Squidward, I was gonna change you, but I got interrupted.
Stop! Not another word about this.
That's the end of the episode. Let's just say it out loud. The episode is bad. Just straight up, brainless, how did this get approved? Bad. Squidward takes 24 hits to the head. He's practically disabled, caged, duct taped, diapered, force-fed, and paraded in public like a brainless mascot. The writers did way more than just cross a line here. They launched themselves over it in a diaper holding a rattle. But the irony is that the violence isn't even the worst part, not even close. Because once you take a closer look, you start to realize something about this episode. Like it's trying to get away with something. And when we dig into how this story works, what it chooses to show, what it doesn't show, and how the characters act like this is all fine, that's when things get really uncomfortable. It's not hard to guess why people hate this episode, right? There's just so much uncomfortable stuff happening all at once. I'm not even sure where to start. For one, it's like everyone is deliberately pretending not to notice how insane this is. Mr. Krabs sees a brain-damaged man in a diaper and says, "Yeah, put him on cashier duty." Customers watch this go down and act mildly annoyed at best. Nobody, not one character, ever asks, "Wait, is this okay? Should we not do this?" Everyone's just fully committed to the bit, no matter how far it goes. Now, old SpongeBob had weird episodes with babies too, but at least back then, someone tried to act like a human being, or, well, a fish with a conscience. In Rockabye Bivalve, SpongeBob and Patrick didn't take their weird fake marriage seriously, but they still treated the baby like it mattered. In Goo Goo Gas, the chaos was indeed surreal, but it was only a plot device for Plankton. The episode was still about Plankton trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula. The baby stuff was just a distraction. Even then, the baby still manages to win over Plankton. That gives it some justice. But Squid Baby? It's just Squidward getting humiliated, injured, and reduced to a punchline for 11 straight minutes. No one ever calls it out. The episode runs on one rule. If Squidward suffers, it's funny. And by the time we're watching diaper jokes in a restaurant, duct tape at the register, and head trauma number 24, I'm not even sure if the writers wanted us to laugh or just sit there in disbelief. I mean, there's just so much you could do to a man trapped in an infant body. Speaking of Squid Baby, who in their office approved this design? It's just uncomfortable to look at. Why does his head bloat so much? Is this just another case of a gross-out visual gag? You did manage to gross me out after all. Maybe it's just the head-go-boom-boomitis. I mean, the itis suffix does technically mean inflammation in medical terms, so maybe? I guess that also explains why a bag of ice cubes magically fixes everything. It feels like the whole design was meant to be unsettling, but not in a clever way. Just gross for the sake of being gross. And now we get to the part that really makes people uncomfortable. Because if you've looked around online, you'll see a lot of people refer to this episode as the writer's poorly disguised fetish. Now look, I'm not here to accuse anyone of anything. I have no proof of intent. But I am pointing out that when you put an adult character in a diaper, make him drool and babble, change his diapers in public, zoom in on his mess, and have everyone go along with it like it's normal, that hits some nerves. And not the good kind. Because there are entire communities online built around forced regression, adult baby play, infantilization, all the stuff this episode plays with, intentionally or not. Even if that wasn't the intent, it feels like it's crossing into that territory. It's just there. And it leaves us asking, what exactly was this episode for? And the weirdest part? There might be no real answer. Of course, I don't exactly know the reason why all of this is happening, nor that the team behind it ever actually said anything about it. But if I had to guess, I'd say a lot of it comes down to when this episode came out. This episode was part of Season 9A. Yeah, a time considered the Dark Ages by a lot of fans. Seasons 4 and 5 were fine, the plots were still mostly character-driven. The jokes still came from who the characters were and how they clashed. But when we're getting into Season 6 and onwards, the show leaned hard into being storyboard-driven, which sounds fine, the practice itself is pretty common. Until you realize that means a lot of episodes were being built around visual gags first, with details of story slapped on later. Instead of finding new creative ground, it just kept recycling old ideas with louder, messier, and meaner visuals. What if Squidward turned into a baby? What if Spongebob lost his brain? What if Patrick joined a cult? They're rarely about exploring characters. It was about putting them through a blender and hoping something funny would fall out. That's one way to end up with episodes like this. And when that doesn't work, well, just keep hurting Squidward until the episode ends. But let's be honest, the most painful part is that it didn't have to be like this. The thing is, the idea itself isn't the main problem. Squidward gets a head injury and SpongeBob has to care for him? That's not a terrible setup. In fact, done right, it could have been a really solid character episode. They prove that in Can You Spare a Dime? Or maybe you could play it as a reversal. SpongeBob and Patrick genuinely trying to help Squidward for once. Learning what it's like to be the responsible one. Trying to bond with someone who's always hated them. And failing, awkwardly, but maybe learning something in the end. Or maybe it becomes a parody of parental anxiety. SpongeBob overreacting to every little bump, spiraling, treating Squidward like he's made of glass. Meanwhile, Patrick is the chill dad who just wants to play. Even if they did want to keep the weird baby angle, they could have at least had someone in the episode treat it like it was weird. Instead, they built the whole thing around a single joke and squeezed it until it went limp. What a shame. So, why is this the most hated SpongeBob episode? Simply put, people hate this episode because it has no sense of what it's actually doing. It's tone deaf, it's visually uncomfortable, and worst of all, they think this is funny. I don't think the fandom overreacted. They didn't take it too seriously. They actually recognized what this was. A lazy, bizarre mess that nobody asked for, and somehow got made anyway. And that's why Squid Baby deserves the title of the most hated SpongeBob episode. But, believe it or not, this isn't even the strangest SpongeBob episode ever made, at least to the viewers. Because there's another one that doesn't humiliate the characters, it brainwashes them. And by the time you notice something's wrong, it's already too late. If you thought Squid Baby made you uncomfortable, wait till you see the one that messes with your mind. See you on the next dive.